Hey y'all, welcome to the Medicinal Melange podcast. I'm Elizabeth, a clinical herbalist, medical astrologer, and the friend that won't let you gaslight yourself out of your own brilliance. This is where we take the guesswork out of your wellness journey and take back your autonomy in healing your body, aligning with your chart, and shedding light on your highest self's actual timeline, not the one capitalism tries to rush you through. If you're into no BS astrology, radical self-honesty, and levels of devotion to yourself you were told were too much, you're in the right place. Thank y'all, by the way, for just being the most patient group. I get DMs or emails like, hey, did I miss the new episode? And I appreciate y'all being patient with me. You know, when I first started podcasting, it was a little sporadic and then I hit my stride and it was very consistent. And honestly, making these every week made me feel good. It was a nice place to decompress, to be vulnerable, um, kind of like a little kid that, has a hard talk or gets in trouble and like closes their eyes as they're trying to talk it out. Sometimes my Scorpio third house, my communication style, sometimes I like being behind the microphone because it makes me feel a little less vulnerable, even though it's still just as vulnerable. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for being patient because we had the holiday season and then I put out like 1 or 2 episodes and then we totally got sick in this house. So I had planned on recording this and wrote this before Saturn moved into Aries, but I'm only a weekend behind. It's all good. Saturn has officially moved into Aries. We also had this full on eclipse in Aquarius yesterday, actually. And Aquarius is my 6th house of health. And if you listen to my first season of the Medicinal Melange podcast, you know that I went through and deep dived into all of them. So looking at this Aquarius episode might be really helpful, especially if you're a Virgo rising, because then you're like me and you have Aquarius in your 6th house of health. And with that comes like all the energy and no energy at the exact same time. So I woke up dog tired, but then also couldn't shut off my brain enough to take a nap at all during the day. And then by the time the evening hit, I was just trying to keep myself busy all day. So then I forgot to eat, which is never good for an Aquarius 6th house. And I forgot to go outside. And, I just kind of locked myself away in my cave. And yeah, so then I ate as quickly as possible at 7 o'clock at night and probably closer to 8 because I also had to dye my daughter's hair. And so I had a great time with that. But yeah, I just scarfed down food and totally glutened myself. So then I was up till about 1 a.m. completely sick. So I hope your Aquarius eclipse went better than that. But also, I want to talk about Saturn and Aries because it is something I've been struggling with. Definitely themes of Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries over the last couple episodes. But as I've said in the past, or at least last episode, I was really struggling to write any sort of goals. Neptune created this fog in my 8th house that and I wouldn't necessarily say that's a house where I look to my future. I really look to Cancer in the 11th house for my specific chart. If you're looking at your chart, I would suggest looking at the 11th house for future stuff too. But I just couldn't see it clearly. Like it took me probably a month and a half to write 5 very regular, generic goals. And even when I was rereading them, they didn't really resonate. Let me backtrack. They resonated. I wasn't passionate about it. I just ordered this new book called Passionate Hooker. And I'm trying to use that word more because I feel like y'all pick up on, when I'm talking about astrology or I'm talking about herbalism, how much passion I have for it. And so as I'm writing my goals, And the reason why I bought the book was to support the author Sean Conley, but also because I wanted to make sure that everything I do is in alignment with my passion. And if I'm maybe just rushing through the steps to get the thing completed and not living in the passion and the play for a moment. Passion is very much throughout the chart, but this is fifth house energy. And I'm a Capricorn fifth house. So sometimes my passion is like, well, have you earned the right to be passionate about something? So anyway, there I was struggling. I bought the book, which is like part book and storytelling, but part workbook. And it's not just for, business babes or something like that. It's nothing crazy like that. A burn it to the ground boss, not like that. But I feel like anybody can be a leader in their own life. I feel like Aries is a great placement for leadership in obvious ways, but I think things like Aquarius and Pluto moving into Aquarius is a way for all of us to disconnect from the system and be our own leader. And I have told everybody that will listen, 2026 is the best year to bet on yourself, to follow through with your dreams, to see your goals forward, to take the leadership into your own life. And so, yeah, if you want to read it with me, I would love to know. Again, I love that it's a workbook because we practice things and then sometimes we don't apply them. So I love a workbook because it helps me work through it. If you have ever been a sun or a moon member, you know that I am all for the journaling and the prompts and stuff like that. So as I am struggling through this, right before we had Saturn move into Pisces, or excuse me, Saturn move into Aries and out of Pisces, we had this moment that kind of made me open up my mind a little bit more. And that was about a week before the move on the 6th. Mercury moved into Pisces. And I feel like this was like a time where I could just work with some herbs and fantasize a little bit. And it kind of softened what I want and how I was speaking to myself. And, it's really hard when Saturn gets into Aries because it's like, okay, you dreamed it up. Let's do it. Let's build this dream. And when you have vague goals, your results are kind of vague. So I wanted to be very intentional and very specific. Somewhere between the 6th and the 10th, I was able to journal, and I ended up journaling like 5 pages, what I wanted, why I wanted it, how I felt about it, and honestly, my passion behind it. And I'm really excited because now that Saturn is in Aries, this is kind of like, okay, can you lead with instinct without having to sprint, without pushing everything 110% so that way you're collapsing before you even build something real? And what's wild is, again, this landed right before my lunar return as well. So I've been in this, Capricorn moon season, which is like journaling your feelings, but spreadsheet style. And for weeks, I couldn't see my next vision. Like I wanted to dream, but that felt really, really freaking flat and foggy and blurry and all those other Neptunian kind of words. But the point is it felt so vague that it didn't feel real. And in order to make our goals come alive and to manifest them into this plane, we do have to have some passion behind it. We do have to have some conviction and connection to the emotional side of things that we're building as well. And so when that, I had my lunar return right before or around the Saturn moving into Aries. And so I was stoked it wasn't like this firework eruption of like, aha, finally, I've gotten past this block. Again, Capricorn's in my 5th house, so I don't really let myself be very artistic and just paint for the sake of painting. It's like, yeah, but can I make this a hustle? But I finally was able to journal something that wasn't me trying to fix things. And truly, I felt like, okay, I'm back. My inner narrator has found the breath again, the vitality again. And so I thought that this would be a really great episode to talk about a little bit more in depth of how I did that, how I let go of survival mode and entered this soft structure, because I know, like every episode, if I'm feeling some way about it, surely you are too. And so, again, this last season of life had me doing what so many of my clients do. Basically, over the past, let's say, year, I've been saying yes. And saying yes again and saying yes. And can you do this? Yeah, sure. I'm picking up shit that I shouldn't even be picking up. I'm taking on a lot of financial, emotional, structural schedule. I don't know if that's a word, but like scheduling, a lot of stuff that isn't mine. Okay. But also growth is happening. And if you've listened to any of my podcasts, you know that everything was taken away from me. And it was like, all right, build it again, but better and different and exactly the same, but completely different. Okay. Okay. There was a few years, and I truly feel like until I could unpack and disconnect, let's say a year ago, I was building from survival. And then when it wasn't survival, it was like a place of joy and a place of saying yes and opportunity and new, because the work is beautiful and growth is happening. And why would you not want to grow? But underneath, I just kept remembering that Pluto in November of 2024, election day, Pluto had moved into my 6th house. Now, yes, if you've been following along, the 6th house is a house of health. But the 6th house is also like Hestia energy. And when I'm teaching it to my sun members, I kind of use Hestia as an example, because the 6th house is how we tend to our flame, how we sustain the flicker of passion, the flicker of vitality. So yes, we can see that in how sustainable your day-to-day is, or, your diet. How sustainable is that if you're trying to lose weight and you're, eating maximum calories? It might not work out like that, unless you add in other things. So it's like, how sustainable is this to what you want? Maybe, for instance, I wanted to do yoga. Wanted, I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence and deciding this, to do yoga teacher training hours. The schedule itself is very difficult. And I'm not opposed to difficult. It's just like, is this sustainable? Is me saying yes to this right now in this moment sustainable? I'm loving it. I'm having a great time with it. And in fact, I decided that I really want to focus on chair yoga, because most of the members in the melange, which again, that is my app / web browser. I mean, you can access it both ways, but it's my community, right? And I'm talking about the melange, which means the mixture of things that sustain us and things that fulfill us. And so I would like it to include chair yoga, because yes, some of my clients and members of the melange need more accessible ways to move their body in ways, like yoga or Pilates, stuff like that. But also, a lot of us are chained to our fucking schedule, chained to our desk. And so a chair yoga exercise and live stream once in a while would be lovely. And so I'm not really I'm not giving up on it. It's just I'm trying to see what's sustainable. Can I go through the process at a slower pace instead of trying to cram it into whatever schedule it currently is on? Can I slow it down a little bit? Because I realized that even the things I said yes to because I love them, sometimes saying yes meant I was stealing time from myself. If you paid attention last time that I had my podcast slash the last episode, I was reading the book, The Yamas and the Niyamas, and I will still stand by that is such a fucking good book. But there's this principle in there about non-stealing. Asteya, I think it's called. Please, I'm sure I butchered that because I'm just going off of the top of my brain trying to remember what it's called, but the theme is not stealing, non-stealing. And after listening to that is really when I had my aha moment. It just so happened that it fell right at my lunar return. But I've been stealing time and energy and clarity from myself by not having systems that help me protect my softness. I'm not burnt out because I care too much. I personally am burnt out because I don't have rhythm behind the scenes to honor the caring. And so Saturn in Aries is very bold. It's also about becoming responsible for your fire, taking that self-responsibility for your fire. Now, again, just like Hestia that's tending to the hearth and the flame, this is what I'm talking about. Aries is fire energy. Great. Saturn is very structural. So that's the question I've kind of been living inside of recently as I realized that my body, my mind, my business, they were all moving at different speeds and I couldn't really hear my future clearly until I slowed down enough to feel it again. And, you know, an aha moment where I really felt proud of myself is when one of my teenagers is learning piano. Now, why is he learning piano? Well, he wanted to learn guitar. And I was like, hey, bro, how about that fucking piano I bought for you 4 years ago that's collecting dust in the corner? Why don't we start there? Let me see some fire. And really, I can't want it for them. So if you say you want to do this, like, show me. And I realized that I was wasting so much energy wanting it for him. And I'll give you an example of what this looks like. I would be the one to remind him before he always remembered to ask if he could go on the TV and watch a movie every day, you know? I would remind him that he forgot to ask if he has enough time to, you know, do a lesson or practice his piano or whatever. So it's almost like I was wanting it for him, is how I kind of sat with it and gathered it. He was not passionate about it in that moment because I was doing all the emotional labor and it showed. And so what I did was, you know, P.S. I got him into piano lessons too. So once a week, I was not only, you know, doing the lessons, I was also driving him and dropping him off, sitting in the parking lot or sitting in his, you know, piano class while he does his piano work, maybe working in the corner or something like that. But that's exhausting. And honestly, no shade, but the last thing I want to do at 7 o'clock at night on a Thursday after I've been working with people's charts and people's energies and helping them fix their fucking life, you know? So it's just not every time, but it was exhausting. But I just, that on top of the mental and emotional work behind the scenes, I realized I was doing all the work. I was creating all the passion, and then he wasn't following through. He wasn't picking it up. So when he remembered that he was going to leave the house and I needed to drive him, I was like, no, If you've ever seen the Bugs Bunny meme where it's like, no, and the lips are all pursed like that, that's kind of how I did it. But I was like, no, I am not going to sacrifice and steal my time to do this right now. I'm exhausted. I need to honor that. I need to honor that softness. And no, the answer is no. When I start to see some effort, and I'll be honest, he's got a lot of effort, a lot of passion lately ever since I did this. So it was almost like releasing control did the trick. It was nice because I feel like he understood. And like I said, this plot twist, the spoiler alert here is that he actually has on his own been practicing piano for hours. And I allowed him, by putting it back in his court, to do the work instead of me and relying on me 100% to manage all of that and the emotional labor behind it. It made him passionate about that. And I'm very stoked on that. But the bigger takeaway for me was that I reclaimed some of my energy and some of my own schedule. And then I was like, okay, shit, that felt really good. Where else can I do this? And then, so honestly, I did the thing that I used to do all the time, but lately I've been forgetting. While I was in the shower, I was washing my hair because that's like the only time I think to do it. But I was like verbalizing. I reclaimed my energy, gave it a minute, felt it rush through the top, my crown, and down into my body and hit all of my arms and down my legs and root me into my system. And then I said, I release the energy that is not mine. And when I did that, I felt a lot better too. And then I had a little bit more space, a little bit more freedom for softness. And the more I caught myself doing this, I realized my schedule, I had packed it in so tightly that I gave no space for creativity. I gave no space for rest and softness. And yeah, since then, I've really changed it up. And I've been trying to honor the fact that it's a good thing that my schedule isn't slam packed, rise, when I wake up in the morning to when I fall asleep. So I'm proud of myself because when I slowed down, I could see my future clearer. If you've taken the receiving frequency, which is my financial astrology class, now, caveat on that right now, or mini detour. If you're a member of the STARS membership, which is one of the membership tiers inside the melange, you have access to the receiving frequency. Also, if you're a member of the Sun membership, which is my highest tier, as an added bonus of y'all being members of the Sun, you automatically, for the year that you are Sun members, you get access to the Stars membership as well. So both levels can get it. Or if you've bought it in the past, you can listen to it. Obviously, you already have all the login and everything. If you would like to join the Stars, they get a new astrology class every single month. And it's a great way to get into the community that I'm building off of the fucking social media apps. But when I slowed down, I was able to create more space for receiving. And this is a big takeaway from the receiving frequency. A lot of the times we are doing so much for other people that we don't slow down enough to just have our hands open. They're busy doing things, creating things, molding things for everybody else except for us. But when we slow down, when we say no, when we create space to have our hands open, we actually can receive more. And I feel like that is where I got in alignment and was able to receive those messages because I'm recalling my energy and I'm creating what I would call, as a Virgo sun rising and Capricorn moon, dead space. That space where I do nothing. That kind of makes me a little anxious, but I'm learning to love it because it also creates softness. So when we take that and we pair it with Jupiter in Aquarius, which is in my 6th house, Jupiter is the ruler of my 4th house. So it's always been true for me that my emotional safety is tied into structure. So when my systems are clean, I feel clean. I've talked about in the past that I give 2 shits about my bed being made in the morning, but in order for me to fall asleep at night, I have to make my bed. So I kind of make it midday on lunch at some point. But when my schedule looks clean, when it's very clear what I'm doing next, I feel great. You know, that's kind of what I'm learning is like, yeah, but too packed may not be the way to go either. I'm also realizing the same can be said across all of my business. When my back end team is aligned, I can actually rest. And I forgot about that for so long because I was building those systems again from survival mode and being flexible with situations that I'm thrown into. So I was building for what needed to work, but not like what would hold me. And so when Pluto moved into Aquarius in November, it's like, okay, I'm going to rip from you the things that aren't working anymore. And again, maybe that's where you are. Maybe you keep stacking new ideas on top of unhealed burnout that you already have and probably have been carrying around for 10 years. I work with clients that, they build this Teflon, she can handle anything personality based off of that survival mode scheduling pattern that I just witnessed to myself. So they've gotten the system right, but their self is still missing from within that system. And that, in my opinion, is the real mismatch. You're trying to build for the future you, more or less, right? This future version of you, while your body is still running on bullshit from 10 years ago, outdated ideas of what the future should look like. If you grew up in I can only speak for myself, so 80s, that hustle, I can do it all, I can carry it all. That's over functioning. That is over rationalizing because there's no time to fucking cry and get upset about it. We need to rationalize these feelings so we don't crash out and disrupt our entire schedule, because it's never about crash out and feel the feelings too deeply. It's always connected to a schedule. We're also over adapting. And underneath it all, you also know this is not sustainable. I have one person that comes to mind when I think about this because they're missing a lot of these appointments, these one-on-ones that could be profound and healing, but they won't even stick to that schedule. It could work really well. It could change their life, but they go, well, then I would have to slow down, and I don't want to slow down for an hour. So systems that factor in your nervous system, your energy dips, your emotional depth, that is structure that reflects your softness. The answer is not more structure. It's systems in place that help you explore that depth. This isn't about making yourself more efficient. It's about finally letting yourself be held, which is a wild concept for me. But making yourself, or allowing yourself, not making, that's a very capitalist word, about letting yourself be held by what you have built. That is really what Saturn and Aries is asking me to do now. Maybe your leadership in your own life is craving it too. And as for the science behind this, that I am constantly running in my mind as I am in the middle of 4 a.m. mental spirals and loops, executive function, creativity, intuition, they all shut down when your body isn't feeling safe. And so I kept wondering why I couldn't see my next vision or why journaling felt like pulling teeth. It wasn't a clarity problem. It wasn't like, oh, I just can't, I don't know. Sure, it was vagueness, but that vagueness is because it was a capacity problem. I was maxed the fuck out. And it is very rare that I verbalize that, but ask anyone that saw me the last week before I dropped everything and kind of started from the bottom and stopped holding everybody. I was verbalizing, I am maxed the fuck out. I am taking care of the kids. My husband just switched schedules, so I'm also trying to pivot around that. I'm pivoting with my children growing up and needing more time outside of the house during the day, which makes me flex my schedule, plus keeping up with everyone else's schedules as they develop. This person gets sick, this person needs to move their schedule to, next week, and that's fine, right? There, no shade. But without systems that create time for me, rhythm within me, and emotional pacing to move forward for me and everyone else in the house for that matter, my and probably your brain goes back into micro shutdown mode. We're not shutting down all at once. It's these little pieces of us that get chipped away. And so when I meet with clients and I read their story via their birth chart and they are in tears because they finally feel seen. Well, a lot of that is because you have a decade's worth of micro shutdowns. And so you lose little pieces of yourself as you go forward. And then we're in robot mode looking around at a life we don't even fucking enjoy anymore. There's no passion because those micro shutdowns they're chipping away at our passion, at our intuition, at our vitality. Even when things look good, right? That vitality is in the fucking trash. So, what I'm not trying to rebuild, I will use better language than that for the sake of manifesting. What I'm rebuilding now, what Saturn and Aries is asking me to do is create structure. But fuck off if I'm going to create structure for capitalism in 2026. I am building structure for emotional longevity. Even structure around my social media. I was like, you know what? It is so stressful to come up with ideas every day. So every time I have a good idea, I just randomly write it in a day planner. I have a day planner specifically for my social media. I write it down on that day, and I have slowly been better about this. Maybe I'll have 2 or 3 ideas and I'll put them in there. But the structure, they might all be different, but the structure is that I've already thought about these things, that I'm not feeling pressured to do it in the moment or the same day. I'm terrible at like batching reels because I don't know, I want it in real time. Because honestly, I want to be passionate. I want to be excited about the reel. I hate scheduling reels and be like, that sounds dumb today. But 2 days ago, I thought that was the best idea ever. But I'm also getting structured about what I'm talking about. I am so sick of going on social media and being bummed out or my nervous system being triggered in any sort of direction based off of what the first video I see is. And honestly, I know y'all are too. I see so many clients that are like, I sign out of this app completely and I come on once a month or something like that just to make sure I have no DMs. So again, that's why I created the melange. It is a community where we are putting energy into it. And by energy, I mean energy and structure that is soft. Literally today, my post was like, hey, the sun is in Pisces. If you needed an astrological reason to buy shoes, this is it. Because it's a great day to buy shoes. But that's some of the playful things. But also, I have a course on beginner astrology. I have a guided meditation on releasing the mental loops that trap us, a la Cancer energy and moon energy. I have a space where you can sign up for hypnosis sessions with me. So it's such a beautiful evolving community. I want to, in April, once I create space for me and for Softness, I want to start doing in-person meetups. I would love to do like an art walk. I think that's going to be my first one because art really softens me. Museums really soften me. And honestly, I don't want it to be about herbs or astrology or this or that or healing or we're going to heal in this way. I just want a space where we can create community off of an app as well, get to know each other in real life as best as possible, and talk about the things we're interested in. If it's astrology, great. If it's not astrology, great. I want to hear about what your grandma used to plant. I don't want to be the one who's always leading or teaching. I want to be the one who creates community with you. So that's why I'm rebuilding now. Emotional longevity through my schedule, through my day-to-day habits, through my health. So if you are a soft visionary type, like an Aquarius type, or if you're like me, Aquarius in 6th house, or really anywhere Aquarius is, this is a visionary leader. But whatever that capacity means for you personally, and if you've been telling yourself that you just need to push through, I want to offer you this, okay? Softness isn't the thing that's holding you back. It's not the thing that's slowing you down. It is your map forward. You are out here running on empty, unprotected, all the goddamn time. And Saturn in Aries is the moment to build the systems that guard your creative brilliance. I shared a little over like last month or so that I am restructuring the back end of my business and the way I lead. And I'm incorporating systems and I have people helping me, which is great eventually. But right now it feels very overwhelming to teach, okay, this is how my brain works. And okay, this is how you do this. It's a lot of extra emotional labor. But I know for a fucking fact this alleviates my nervous system in the long run and helps me be a better leader in the long run. So yeah, it's worth my time right now to do a little bit of extra guidance and support and love, more or less, now, and softness now, and teaching the people that are in my team how to be soft within themselves. So I'm going to close similar to last week and leave you, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, and leave you with a journal prompt that I would probably ask my Sun members. Again, the Sun membership is a membership tier within the melange. So the melange is the whole community. I have the Sun, the Moon, the stars. And for the most part, I see the Sun members the most. So they naturally get a lot of journal prompts and stuff. But y'all wrote to me in the melange. A lot of people gave feedback on the episode. And so I wanted to pose it to you here, which is, where are you stealing time from yourself because you haven't built a system that lets you stay soft? And I want you to sit with this as a journal this week because Saturn moved into Aries. And when you can soften, that's where your future begins propelling towards you with that structure to move forward. Before we close, I do want to pull a card for the week. If you've ever gotten a little bit of everything reading from me or come and visit me for an in-person reading, you know that I have an astrology deck that is my main squeeze. I have no idea what it's called. I bought it. I use it every single day, every single reading. So the box has just never survived. But the guides and the message we want to leave with today. Ooh, I accidentally pulled two. The first one is Leo. And underneath the Leo card, it says creative. Now, this is very interesting because the fifth house of joy, of pleasure, of all of those things that I said propel us towards our future, that is fifth house energy. And the natural architect of the fifth house, the natural ruler, is Leo. Now, you may be like, I don't have Leo in my fifth house. That's fine. The way I teach it is that is who built your house. You came in with your sign and was like, no, I want a water feature over here. I want the walls pink, whatever equates to your sign. But the natural builder, the natural architect of the fifth house, and the creative force and the confidence and that softness for ourselves, where we stop performing and really start living authentically, that is Leo. So I think it's so beautiful that we pulled that. The second card that I pulled is actually an asteroid, and it is Juno. And this represents partnership. And so I think there has to be a partnership in your life that maybe you're given a little too much. Maybe you want it for them and they don't want it that much. So just pause, especially if you have children, because I feel like we all give, and we want it so bad for them. And then we don't really stop to see if they want it that badly for themselves. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a family member, maybe it is just your job or yourself. Maybe you're very hard on yourself. And this partnership kind of is a little bit brutal. You don't feel like you're good enough to be creative, that you have enough time to be creative, when all we have to do is let go of the schedule a little bit, let go of the responsibilities that are not ours. And then we naturally see that we have more room, more capacity for this creative outlet, for this creative freedom. Let's blend Leo and Aquarius since we just had this solar eclipse. But Leo is a creative, true, and represents creativity to some extent. But Aquarius loves freedom, and it wants the freedom to have a little bit of movement in the schedule. And I offer that to you guys. I hope you really take this and try to apply it to your own life. That's a big thing I'm focusing on recently, is not just listening to this and be like, cool story, bro, but actually applying it, even if it's just one moment. Maybe you just say no and use it as a full sentence. Can you do this? No. If it's at job, no, I'm already doing this. If it's at job, Jesus, can I talk? If it is at your job, maybe it's just asking that you be paid for the work you're doing, because your job is supposed to be done by 3 people, but you're the only person doing it. Maybe it's requesting a little bit of compensation for that. Whatever it means to be soft and to create space for you, please do that this week. And I will talk to y'all next week.